Tēnā tātou katoa, koutou mai nei, hei tēnei rā. Kia ora whānau, welcome to Headmaster's Assembly for Monday the 23rd of August. Certainly strange times indeed, isn't it? And as I sit here far away from each of you right now, there's certainly a sense that there are many more questions than answers. And to that end, I thank you, the student community, for the way in which you have been really resilient and adaptive to what's been thrown at us over the last week. Certainly I know that wonderful people within our frontline workforce in the Ministry of Health and at government level are working obviously to try and create an environment where we can return and work together face to face sooner rather than later. But in the meantime, obviously we are just all sitting and hoping and counting on each other's goodwill and cooperation. So to that end, to you the students, as you sit at home today, as you did at the back end of last week, and as we'll continue to do in the foreseeable future, my sincere thanks and that of our wider staff here for your maturity at this time. Today there are several comments that I wish to make, starting with teaching and learning. Over the last week I've been communicating with your parents, and by now, certainly having jumped into many of your online classes, you are well versed in what our expectations are. And I thank you for meeting those. I thank you for being on time. Our staff are working at an incredible rate of knots at the moment to make sure that the lessons that you have are really robust and set you up for great success in the weeks and the term ahead, particularly for our senior students. But all of that hard work comes undone if you're not in the classroom for the period in question. And to that end, I want to thank you for the really high rates of attendance that we've seen, and for the really engaging ways in which you're entering into forums and question and answer processes in your classes, and just simply for your positivity. That smile online certainly has been really clear for me as I've jumped into different classrooms and watched you do your thing. Can I just make a couple of notes, particularly in reference to teaching and learning, around you making sure that you meet your obligations if there's work that you are required to do in advance of a class, or tasks during the last period that you have been asked to complete, that those are done. We certainly want to make sure that we don't lose momentum, and whilst certainly there's been an overwhelming sense of real high levels of respect and engagement, we certainly do want to make sure that that's echoed in terms of the completion of tasks that have been put in front of you. You will have seen through the comms that I sent your parents, and also on our school website, in particular the landing page, that is a wealth of knowledge for you, that we have made slight modifications for what we think will give you the best possible opportunity to do well during this time of distance learning. So to that end, I'm sure you enjoyed this morning a slightly later start of 8:30, and therefore as a result your 6 periods of today and each day to follow reducing 5 minutes in length and being 40-minute periods instead. We believe that 8:30 start is really advantageous in terms of helping you consolidate your learning and transferring it into long-term memory banks by simply starting a little bit later each day and making sure that you capitalise on sleep that's available. The other major change to teaching and learning is that we've hit pause, at least for this week, on Wednesday classes. You would recognise that we had an exit weekend planned this coming Friday, and we've decided to use that particular day that was published for no tuition and instruction, and placed that on the Wednesday instead. That means that by the time you read this message, you're almost down on day one, and then only have one further day of school before on Wednesday you can take a mini break in the middle of the week and then return for 2 further days of instruction. Again, we have prepared this in the knowledge that we firmly believe this will give you the best possible opportunity, not only to hit reset and get off screens on Wednesday, but also particularly for senior students a chance to embark on some independent thought and tasks on the Wednesday, and to consolidate any particular topics that you found difficult over the last couple of days of tuition. So to that end, sincerely hope that you use that Wednesday for what it's intended to be. Outside of that, continuing to drop in on classes, and as I mentioned earlier, delighted by your level of engagement, so we look forward to that continuing moving forward. For our senior students, I've already communicated with your parents, and I'm sure the information's been passed to you, but it is our intention that when we do return to campus and have the ministry's approval to do so, that we will look to hold the benchmarks with relative haste. In saying that, we do recognise that returning after a period of distance learning does require at least 24 hours in order to get back into flow of things here on site, including making sure you have the opportunity to meet with each classroom teacher face to face and ask questions of them before embarking on those important assessments. So we will keep you posted, but do go with confidence, knowing that upon return to conditions where students can re-enter the campus, that there will be a period of time, at least one day, where you'll be here on site with all of us before we end up hitting activate on that particular benchmark timetable. Can I also just make mention at this time that I do certainly feel for senior students who are involved in tournament week. I know there are a large number of students, and in particularly the vast majority in the senior end of the school, who have unfortunately had that particular opportunity taken away from them. And that's very much the nature of the world that we live in at the moment, and as such, we've really got two options. We can sit there and mourn the loss of the opportunity to compete, or be grateful for the chances we have had, in particular in the winter sports codes and in the performing arts, to compete and to perform. And as mentioned recently in comms to your parents, Mr. Hay, the assistant headmaster, is working with local schools at the moment that we have really good relationships with, in the hope that when we are in a position where we can return to campus, that you can enjoy some final opportunities to actually connect and play as teams before the winter season closes. Speaking of closing, I'm really conscious of the fact that I don't want to hold you at this time, but did certainly want to reach out and say to you that if you take nothing else out of this message, the most critical thing that you can do at the moment is keep talking. Keep talking to your parents, keep talking to your whānau, keep talking about how you're feeling, where your headspace is at, what you're worried, concerned, anxious about, but also things that have been really pleasant in terms of change-ups to your days at this stage. Please know via your housemaster, know via our counsellors here on site, and know via the members of the senior leadership team that we're all here in readiness if you need additional support in any way, shape and form. It's simply a matter of you reaching out via email and asking for extra support, and then we will certainly make sure that that is made available to you. Another great avenue for support and wonderful thought-provoking thinking is via chapel, and the next chapel that Rev will be leading will be at 3:30 tomorrow, and the link will be provided both on the landing page and via email to your parents that I'll send later this afternoon. But please make sure you tune in, that you enjoy Rev's commentary, and you certainly take time out of your day tomorrow to reflect on where we find ourselves at this current point in time. Again, finally, in closing, our real thanks for your cooperation, our thanks for your maturity. We understand completely that this is not easy at this time, and we thank you, the students, for the way in which you're jumping on board and making what is equally a really difficult task for our staff all the more easier just by your goodwill. So take care of yourself, take care of each other, and do look forward to hearing the government's intentions later today, communicating those to your parents tonight, and importantly for you all, for seeing in advance the wonderful ways in which we've joined as a community and made the best of what is a really trying situation. Ngā mihi, take care.